Time for a mid-year book freakout tag. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got my mid-year book freakout tag video. It's 13 questions that we do around the halfway point of the year, like favorite book and all that kind of jazz, and it's all very exciting. We'll link the questions down below if you want to do one yourself or if you just want to look at them, whatever. I got my books next to me. There's going to be a couple of repeats just because of answers and characters within books and stuff like that. So you see a repeat book, that's why. Otherwise, we'll link these books down below as well. There's quite a few of them, obviously, because there's 13 questions. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Down below is also Danielle's channel, the Bookstagrams, and all that fun stuff. And without further ado, let's get into the tag video. Alright, so I got my phone here with the questions. I also have my written answers on a little notepad down here. So the first question is, best book you've read so far this year? So I had a few options, and I feel like once I read this book, I said immediately that this is probably going to be the book of the year, and nothing has really, I would say, challenged it for that spot except for maybe one. But the book of the year so far is Swan Song by Robert McCammon. This book was really, really good. I'm planning on reading another book that's a post-apocalyptic book so I can do my ranking of my top 5 favorite, like, 700-page post-apocalyptic books. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what's better between The Stand or Swan Song. You guys are going to probably see that when I do post the video. I'm not going to give you the answer here, obviously. But Swan Song has been my favorite book of the year so far. It's got so many good characters. The premise is really creepy, really eerie. And it's just got a really good cast of characters. And it's just... So the first time I read The Stand, there was a lot of people. Not saying this one doesn't have a lot of people, but the difference with this one is I feel like they get split up so right away at the beginning, and like the event happened so fast in the beginning of the book that like I felt like it was a bit easier to keep up with, in my opinion. I also reread The Stand this year, and I was better with it because I did watch the miniseries from the 90s. I don't consider the one that just came out an actual thing. But I really, really like this book. Swan is such an amazing character. You'll see a reoccurring person come up in another question in a little bit, so I won't mention that person here. But it's so cool. I love the ending. It's like such an uplifting ending, and it's like... such a good book. Obviously I gave it 5 stars, so. But there you have my favorite book of the year so far, Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Alright, question number 2. Best sequel you've read so far this year? I really haven't read that many sequels. I think the only one that I have read is this one, and that is The Twisted Dead by Darcy Coates. So this book is book 3 in the Gravekeeper trilogy, which it's going to become a series because book 4 comes out, I think, next year. And I already forgot, The Hollow Dead, I think is what it's called. But this is the book that follows The Whispering Dead and The Ravenous Dead, or Ravenous Dead, whatever. I really, really did enjoy this book. This was part of a recent reads I did a little bit ago, so if you want to check out that video, check it out up here. I believe I'm pointing the right way. I feel like I haven't done that for a while. So this book, we're still following Kira as she's, like, becoming more familiar with her power. Her best friends are still, like, accustomed to it, and she ends up becoming somebody to try and help this guy named Dane, who's, like, being haunted by, like, his family and his house. Like, they're all, like, dead, and he's, like, the last one. And, like, all of them are, like, basically, like, being succubuses and just, like, sucking away his energy and stuff, and Kara has to figure out how to get rid of them. The only real problem I have with it is there's too many, like, little, like, I'm going to call them side quests, and that sounds weird, but there's, like, little side quests she does to, like, go to other places and do other things to help her friends out, which I don't hate because one of them gives her, like, a really cool ability, and I thought it, like, helps her in the end. So Otherwise, this is, I think, the only sequel I have read this year. Danielle and I did do some research, and this is the only one, I believe. And I really did like it. So there you have The Twisted Dead by Darcy Coates. All right, the third question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. Originally, I was going to put The Only One Left by Riley Sager in this position, but I just read that yesterday at the time of filming this. So I'm not putting that here. Instead, I'm going to put The Curator by Owen King. So this is Stephen King's son. He co-wrote Sleeping Beauties with him. I've read a lot of Joe Hill, which is another one of Stephen King's sons, and I have not read anything by Owen. Mainly because what I've heard about some of his books is they're not really the greatest. Joe Hill is the better writer, I tend to hear, which I read The Fireman last year, absolutely loved it. And I've read Nosferatu, absolutely loved it. But there is a couple that I have not liked by Joe Hill. But I've yet to read anything by Owen King. As far as I know with this book, which let me just read the little blurb up here. Let's see. From New York Times bestselling author Owen King comes a Dickinson fantasy of illusion and charm where cats are revered as religious figures, thieves are noble, scholars are revolutionaries, and conjurers are the most wonderful criminals you can imagine. So it's kind of like, it's a fantasy novel, and it feels like it's like reverse of like how like the world works. Like thieves are like considered like good people and like stuff like that. I'm intrigued to see what people think about this book. If you can, let me know in the comments if you've read this book. Keep it spoiler free if you could, just because I'm really curious about this one and I really do want to read it. It's been on my radar for a long time. And the funny thing is we bought the book when it came out new, and then like 2 months later we got sent an ARC edition, even though the book had been out for like 2 months, which I thought was kind of funny. So I have 2 editions of this book. But that's besides the point. But again, let me know if you have read this book, your thoughts, if you liked it, if you hated it, why, but keep it spoiler free. But book I have not read so far this year that I want to, The Curator by Owen King. Alright, question number 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Alright, well, no duh, it's going to be this. Holly by Stephen King, coming out in September. I don't remember the exact date. Maybe it'll be here when our son is born. Who knows? So I can read it while I'm out. But as far as I know, the book, I haven't like really looked into more of the premise, but as far as I remember, I think King saying, or what I have read, is it's Holly Gibney from the Mr. Mercedes trilogy or the Bill Hodges trilogy, whatever you want to refer to it as. In her third standalone book, the first one was The Outsider, the second one was If It Bleeds, from the collection If It Bleeds. And this is the third book she's in, and I think it's her dealing with COVID. I think not like her having it, but like during the pandemic or something like that. I think that's what King said it was about. Again, I don't want to read too much into it before going into it. That's typically how I am with King books. I just want to like, boom, go into it, unless obviously it's like a backlist book and it's been around for years. So otherwise, I mean, that's the obvious choice. It's the only real choice I got. I mean, there's a few other authors coming out with books this year that I am excited for, but the big one is Holly by Stephen King. All right. The fifth question is biggest disappointment of the year so far. Okay, so I just read this book, so I guess that might mean it's a little bit biased. But this book was highly regarded by my wife, Danielle. She gave it 5 stars. She absolutely loved it. I read it and I did not like it. Everyone in my family has killed someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This has been the biggest disappointment, mainly because, and I'm not going to try and throw Danielle under the bus, but typically when she picks a thriller book that she really likes, I usually always like it. Like, pretty much everything that she has put on, like, my TBRs that I've read, usually between 4 and 5 stars. Usually, always. This book was 2 stars. As I said in my video, it's a 2-star book. It's literally a 0-star book with a 2-star ending, is pretty much how I phrased it in that video. The ending was really good, a lot of twists pop up and everything, but the whole story of getting there was just, it dragged. The one key point I didn't really like was the narrator, like, basically saying everything at the beginning and, like, saying all, like, the plot twists, like, oh, so-and-so gets shot on page 27. It's like, I would have liked to have just read that. Why did you just spoil everything? It seemed like the book got spoiled at the beginning, which is funny because Danielle loved that aspect of the book, and it just did not work for me. I know there's a few people who it also hasn't worked for, but there are some people who have really liked the book, so I feel like this is a very hit or miss book with people. And unfortunately for me, this book was a miss. So, unfortunately, the biggest disappointment so far is everyone in my family has killed someone by Benjamin Stevenson. Alright, first King book of the, well, I guess Stephen King book of the list. The biggest surprise for me, this was a big toss-up because I have a couple different options I could pick so far. The Angel Maker by Alex North. The first 2 books I've read by him were terrible. I did not like either of them. And The Angel Maker I originally had selected to go in this spot. But the unfortunate thing is I read it and then a lot of life events happened with Danielle and I, and it's been like 4 months, and I remember 0 about the book. I just know I gave it like 4 stars. So that's why I didn't pick that one. Mr. Mercedes is another book that would fit in this spot because it was a thriller book by Mr. Stephen King. God, I've never said that before. It was a thriller book by Stephen King, and I didn't really know what to expect. A lot of people say it's hit or miss, but I feel the reason I'm not picking that one is because a lot more people like that than the one I ended up picking. So for me, the biggest surprise of the year so far is The Dark Half. So I feel like this is another book where people are torn between liking it and hating it. I feel like a lot more people have this towards the bottom of their like King rankings and stuff like that. I did a reading vlog with this book. Again, we'll post it up here. I believe I'm pointing the right way. So this book, we're following a writer named Thad Bearmount, and he has an alter ego or like a pen name, whatever the technical term is. And I want to say it was George Stark. And what happens is George Stark writes darker than Thad does. He writes more dark books, like scary books, like horror books. And Thad is pretty much just sick and tired of it, so he kills him off. He he's dead. This was also like a symbolic book, also like doing the same thing with like Richard Bachman with Stephen King. But then Blaze came out. Pretty much what ends up happening is he thinks that like everything's good, he's done with George Stark, but then a mysterious killing happens nearby, and a mysterious killing happens in Washington, literally within days of each other. It's a very interesting like premise and plot point. I don't really know why people don't enjoy it that much. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was pretty solid. Definitely not a top 10 King, but definitely within the top 20 or 25 I've read so far, which I gotta do that video too one of these days. But anyway, The Dark Half, probably the biggest surprise so far for me of the year. Again, like I said, I have other options, but this is definitely probably the biggest one so far. Alright, we're on to question number 7. Favorite new author, debut or new to you? So, I really haven't had any like banger new authors because I've done a lot of rereads this year just because I've hit a bunch of slumps and have gotten back into the swing of things. So the only real like new author I read where I absolutely loved the book is Robert McCammon, Swan Song. So I'm not gonna really talk about this one too much because I did earlier in the book again, or in the video. Again, post-apocalyptic book, world ends. We're following a bunch of people who survive. That's pretty much it. So, but it was a very good book and I really enjoyed it. If you have any other recommendations for Robert McCammon, let me know down below so I can check them out. So, there you have my new favorite author of the year so far, Robert McCammon. Alright, next up is question number 8, newest fictional crush. So this is one that I usually always have an odd answer for. The past I've like used Christine because it was a car, and then I think the following year I skipped it, and then I think last year we didn't do this video. I don't remember. I think I've only done 2 or 3 of these, but I remember I always pick odd things. This year I actually have one, and that is Emma Carpenter from The Last Word by Taylor Adams. So in this book, we're basically following this woman who writes a review about a book. The author is salty about it and basically is like, take down what you said, because like, I don't think you understand how it works. If I get one bad review, I don't get paid well enough, and like crap like that. So then she starts getting terrorized by the author, and like then we get 2 perspectives of the book, and it's really cool, really enjoyable. What makes this like a crush is how resourceful that Emma is. Which I guess I just read the Riley Sager book. I could have picked the girl in that book as well, but I think I'm going to stick with Emma Carpenter. I think that's what I said. Yeah, Emma Carpenter. She's really resourceful, she's really smart, she knows what she's doing, and she has a dog. So, otherwise, the book was good. I think I ended up giving it 5 stars. I said dog and Bailey just stood up. So, but otherwise, that is my newest fictional crush, Emma Carpenter from The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Alright, on to question number 9. Newest favorite character. So, reoccurring theme. You're seeing the same book for the 3rd time. No surprise. Swan Song. Josh Hutchins. The big black wrestler guy in this book. Okay. He is a total badass. He's the one who basically watches over Swan throughout this entire book. What ends up happening, again, I'm going to kind of briefly more talk about it because I haven't really, like, given more of a premise. What ends up happening is a nuclear bomb, like, blows up, like, the entire world just gets decimated because all this bad stuff's going on between, like, us and Russia. We nuke Russia, Russia nukes us, like, basically World War III, and it's terrible. The radiation causes problems with people's skin. Like, they get these lesions on their body, like, it's, like, really gross and nasty. And about 3/4 of the way through the book, some people start shedding it off. And when some of them do, what happens is, like, if you're on the good side, like, you glow, like you're clean, you're fresh, like you're brand new. But for the bad people, it melts off of them and they basically like look like shit. Like, they look gross. Which obviously there's the 2 sides of the story. There's the good people, which is Swan, Josh, and all those people, and then there's the bad people, who's like the military guy and some weird kid who like pees himself at the beginning of the book or something like that. And pretty much what is... Okay, so the biggest scene that really sold me on really liking Josh, towards the end of the book, bad things are happening to Swan. It looks grim as crap. It looks like it's over, and then Josh just, boom, like, pops up. Like, it I won't do any more than that because it will spoil some of the book, but when you start reading towards the end, like, Josh is off page, off screen, whatever, but then boom, just pops up, saves the day, and just total badass. That is why he is my favorite character of the year so far. Josh Hutchins from Swan Song. Alright, we're on to question number 10. Book that made you cry. I did not have a book like that this year so far. I don't really know if I have one that would even be close. So instead, I'm going to do a book that was just scary as hell. And that is going to be Revival by Stephen King. Okay, so this book is definitely in my top 15 King books of all time. This book is Pet Sematary taken up a notch with, like, human beings. It's, I mean, obviously humans are in Pet Sematary too, but, like, this book is out there. So it starts off with, like, this little kid, and, like, the new reverend in town stumbles into him. It's just like, hey, yeah, electricity's pretty cool. You know, batteries and stuff like this. And as the kid gets older, like, his life gets more messed up, and, like, he runs into the guy again, and he's, like, performing these miracles with, like, electricity. Like, somebody's got cancer, zap, gets it out of him. But then what starts happening is to most of the people is they like start seeing things. And what they'll do is they'll either kill other people and then themselves, or they'll just kill themselves. And so like that's dark as crap. But then the ending of this book is really what sells the creepiness factor. The biggest thing with this book, as I said in my recent reads I did with this, is it's got a lot of question towards religion and like what happens after death. And King gave us his interpretation of that, and it is out there, let me tell you. It's a scary book. I would say Pet Sematary is still a little bit more eerie, but this is like number 2. This is up there. Like, this is creepy as can be. Gave it 5 stars, love the book. So there you have for my number 10 scariest book of the year so far, Revival. Alright, question number 11. Book that made you happy. So I find it funny that this is the book I'm putting here because this is a horror book and it's like by no means a happy book until literally the end. And that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix, this book came out this year. I gave it 5 stars. It's definitely in my top 5 books of the year so far, which maybe that'll be a video we do. It is so good. I loved everything about this book, and it was phenomenal. It was scary. It had creepy aspects, like the whole puppet aspect of this book, like, scares the poop out of you, man. What makes this happy is the end. I can't say anything because it would spoil it. But this book is basically about a brother and sister who get a house full of dolls, and it's inherited by them. The brother wants to knock it down and like remodel everything. The sister's just like, no, let's not leave it that way. Let's leave it how it is. That's what mom and dad would want and stuff like that. And there's this big feud going on between in like the whole entire book, and then you get the ending, and that's all I'm gonna say. It's just creepy. Caca-wee-wee. There you have How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Alright, on to question 12. Most beautiful book you have acquired this year. I have one or two that have been good. I haven't really done a whole lot of buying of books this year. Danielle and I really haven't done that much. A lot of the books we've been getting have been through the library or Book of the Month. But one of the ones we did get this year is The Ravaged by Norman Reedus. I know literally almost nothing about this book, but this cover just looks sick. It looks really cool, and the inside part of the book, this just looks really cool. I think the back half even has something cool too. No, it doesn't. But it's a really cool looking book. I've wanted to read it for a while, and I just haven't really gotten to it yet. Oh wait, no, now I remember what it is. Yeah, matches and stuff like that. Looks really cool. It feels cool too. It's a different material for a book, and it's sturdy. It's like a book. That sounded weird. Otherwise, I don't know much about it. Norman Reedus is best known for being Daryl in The Walking Dead. He wrote a book with Frank Bill. I don't know who that is. But it's just a really pretty book, and it's a really gorgeous looking cover. So, best looking book I've gotten this year, The Ravaged. Alright, the final question. What books do you need to read before the end of the year? So my card is empty because the only real goal I have is finishing Stephen King. It's a daunting task, mainly because I'm not going to have a whole lot of free time to finish a lot of his books. And the other poopy part is a lot of the books I have left are all over 500 pages. Which the Talisman, not Under the Dome, Talisman, Sleeping Beauties, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I also got a lot of collections, which that's not going to be terrible because I can just read a couple stories every now and again and, potato. But I'm down to the last couple because this past month I read 3 brand new ones. Revival, Mr. Mercedes, and The Dark Half. I'm planning on possibly reading The Talisman this weekend, depending on when this goes up. It could have been last weekend or the weekend that's going on right now. Depends on when this goes up. But I don't have that many left, and I really want to finish off everything and then make my big ranking video of all of them. Not like a tier rank, but like rank them like 70 whatever to boom to 1. And you know, it's just still a daunting task. It's a big goal. I don't know if it'll get done this year, but maybe by next year's book freakout tag, mid-year book freakout tag, I'll have it done. All kind of depends on the baby and everything when he comes, if what I'm able to get done while I'm out of work and all that kind of jazz. So, but otherwise, that's pretty much all I've got for this video. 13 questions. We'll link them all down below. All the books will link down below. No, we're not going to list Swan Song like 8 times. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know some of your answers for these questions. Again, we'll link them down below. Danielle may try and do this video. Maybe. Otherwise, down below is her channel. Check her out. Again, she just got over 800 subscribers. Keep her going. Get her to 1K. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and see you guys in the next video. Later.